All right, so we're evaluating apartments right now. We're talking about how do you add value to your apartment building, whether it be a 2-family or 4-family, but particularly larger than that, right? So when you look at big apartment complexes, there are oftentimes the rent expense and a whole list of additional expenses that they are responsible for. On big apartment buildings, they're typically called RUBS. We just kind of call them additional expenses or pass-throughs, but it might be pet expense, parking expense, utility reimbursement for sewer, water, trash expense, and then a vast array of additional expenses if there's a gym, if there's covered parking, parking lot parking, all these different variables that can kind of come. And here's the real impact on why the big complexes do it and why you often see the small mom and pops not do it, but they're leaving a lot of money on the table. So we're kind of go through the math of this. So let's say you had a 10-unit apartment building, and in addition to the rent, you're not collecting a reimbursement for sewer, water, trash, right? Because that's oftentimes water comes in through a single meter. Trash is a single expense from the trash company. Sewer will have a single expense to the landlord. Well, nowadays, you'll often see this where landlords aren't passing that through, but tenants are oftentimes willing to accept paying that. So let's say you got another $50 per month from that tenant per unit for those reimbursements, right? So you're getting $1,000 a month in rent, and then now you're getting another $50 a month in those water, sewer, trash reimbursements. So you have $50 a month times 10 tenants. That's $500 a month over 12 months. That's $6,000 a year that comes in as a result of that. Well, if you just simply took that $6,000 and you ran it at a cap rate of 10%, I know apartment buildings trade for a much lower cap rate than that, but for easy math, you get another $6,000 in revenue, and you divide that by a cap rate of 10%, that's another $60,000 in value you're adding to that building. At 5% cap rate, it's $120,000 in additional value you're adding to that building just by getting that reimbursement amount for water, sewer, trash. And then you can apply all of the other additional fees that apply to that. Pet fee, parking fee, laundry fee, storage fee, all these other things, you can see how they can really add up. So if you got 2 other fees per tenant at $50 a month per that they're already using that you can apply to it, well, now you can start talking about adding between $60,000 and $20,000 for a 10-unit building for each one of those additional ones that you're adding to the tenant's responsibility. And if they were at a large complex, these would be expenses they would have to pay otherwise, and typically are comfortable paying because it's acceptable on the bigger complexes, but it isn't being billed properly on the smaller complexes, and there's a ton of value that is lost to the overall cash flow and the cash flow that's capped at a cap rate on the property. So a ton of value is lost on your assets if you're not monitoring and analyzing that properly.